Hello, hello, hello. Thank you once again for being part of the Force of Leadership Thought 2024. My name is Gideon. I'm your host. I'm a thought leader, a leadership communicator. This is my third introduction video, and thank you for being part of this. I really appreciate. Please take your seat. We're going to explore together key, impactful insights on the concept of personal leadership. And we are going to look critically into the importance of understanding that leadership is, first of all, a personal assignment. It's first of all a personal commitment to personal change, and that leadership is not defined by masses. It's not defined by the number of people you command. That leadership is essentially defined by the possession and the acquisition of a personal vision for self, first of all. That you and I cannot lead until we are able to lead ourselves effectively. That you cannot move people except you are movable yourself. Thank you. Appreciate. Today's a little bit cold. We were not expecting snow today, but fortunately we have snow all around. It's a little bit cold, but don't worry, we will deliver. So how are you today? Exactly. What happened to you today? How was work? I mean, how is your family? How are they all doing? I hope you're fine. Good to see you, my friends all over Africa, in the Asian, countries, in America, in Europe. Appreciate you guys for taking the time to be with me. Thank you for my partners for making this possible. I am your friend and I'm your colleague in development. Thank you, and thank you. Let us begin by examining a few quotable quotes, and then we would advance from there as we are able to do today. Okay, so my first quotable quote, we look like this: you can't leverage by remaining average. Of course, your goal is not to remain average. Nobody wants to be average. And similarly, I tell friends and I tell colleagues, I tell whoever works with me personally, and of course you will also see that in the way that I demonstrate work. I take work very seriously. I don't mean to be competitive for no reason. As a matter of fact, my competition basically is able to overcome my own shortcomings and my own inadequacy. But this is what I tell friends and colleagues. Perfection is good, but perfection is not realistically achievable. Our goal is perfection, but we still make mistakes. Sometimes big mistakes, sometimes small mistakes, even in our leadership. So perfection is fantastic. Perfection is cool, is good, but it may not be practically achievable. However, I will not compromise on excellence. While perfection may not be achievable, however, I will not compromise on excellence. In other words, whatever I can possibly do to avoid mistakes, I will do, because my goal is excellence. Excellence is an attempt. It's an attitude. It's a behavior that seeks to achieve perfection, even though perfection may be far-fetched. And so you don't want to make mistakes on the things that you shouldn't be making mistakes on. And that is the idea about excellence. Okay, so make perfection your goal, strive, but make excellence your ultimate a instant, measurable behavior. Okay, a measurable behavior, an instant behavior. In other words, you are conditioned to overcome mistakes, not necessarily because you want to achieve perfection, but because you want to drive towards excellence. And hopefully, you probably be able to achieve perfection. Okay, so make excellence your goal. That's the point. So, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, listeners, wherever you are, you cannot leverage by remaining average. You want to keep pushing as a leader. You want to keep pushing as an individual. You want to keep pushing and keep making things happen for you, regardless of your weaknesses, regardless of your shortcomings, because the goal is to be able to overcome yourself and to make yourself valid, make yourself accountable to your own self. And don't forget, we're talking about personal leadership here. Okay, so make yourself ready, make yourself available to achieve excellence, and hopefully we will drive towards perfection at the end. I'll see you in my next quotable quote very shortly. Bye bye. Okay, here we are back again on the force of leadership thought, and we're going to continue briefly on our second quotable quote, and it will look like this. All right, it is critical to constantly evolve. It is important to constantly evolve. Change is more than a confession, it is a process. You don't merely confess change, you walk towards change. Okay, so the beauty of constant and the beauty of evolving is to be constantly evolving in your business, at work, in your projects. Okay, whatever you do, there is a need to constantly evolve. Why? Because change is constant. Change is constant. So the beauty of this word, however often you use these words, whether it's constant or evolving, the beauty of both words is to be constantly evolving. As a leader, you want to constantly evolve, you want to constantly change, you want to constantly improve, you want to constantly change, because we are the image the people are looking at. We are the image that people are going to mirror at the end of the day. I tell people, when you focus on the mirror, what you see is yourself. The mirror is not designed to look back at you. The mirror is not it's not human. It's basically an object. It does exactly what you tell it to do. And so when you stare at the mirror, you don't see someone else but yourself. That is the goal of the mirror, to project yourself to you. And so constantly I look at the mirror, not for any other reason. I'm not interested in being, whatever that I'm not. So when I look at the mirror, I'm just basically looking at myself and projecting positive thoughts to myself and say, hey guy, this man, dude, you're going to be great, you're going to be powerful, you're going to change lives, and just speak to myself positively. And that is what I think the mirror is for. When you look at yourself, look at yourself critically and tell yourself the truth, and that's what the mirror will do for you. So next time you look at the mirror, not basically because you're looking good, which is very important because leaders are influencers, but basically to look at yourself and appreciate the person you're looking at and speak positively to yourself, positive affirmations. All right. So the beauty of constant and evolving is to be constantly evolving. And I believe you will change this year. You're going to evolve this year. You're going to evolve from a, from being a low key and uh, a hiding kind of a person. You don't want to be known. You don't want to be seen. You're going to allow yourself to express the gift and the strength that you have, because it's very important. We would examine this later on. That is not about the strength of position as we see these days. It is not the accumulation of titles. It's not how expansive your position is. You want to be everywhere. You want to be everything. That's not what matters. And so the goal is not to operate from, the strength of position, but ultimately from the position of strength. In other words, your giftings and your abilities and your talents that is properly developed, talents that is properly cultivated. So I'll see you shortly. Okay, some basic reminders to the purpose and the reason why we are here today, and to move together in the same direction, to speak one mind, to inspire leadership, to share thoughts about personal leadership, of course, as we go on in details. We want to redirect ourselves as leaders to a place of understanding, not to a place of basically earning a position, whether by merit or whether by chance or whether by mistake or by any means. But we want to basically examine, to refresh our understanding, to give our understanding another look, to examine our perspective, the forces and the understanding and the thought that is driving our leadership, to a place that is basically determined by the development and then the manifestation of our strength, because leadership is a combination of skills. Leadership is a combination of strengths. It's a combination of qualities. And so we're not looking at the size of your office right now. That does not matter. We are basically looking at how you have effectively deployed your natural gifting to serve, to develop, to inspire, to achieve results, to motivate. That's what we want to do. That we are not caught in the web of the fantasy of influence, but actually to understand the implication and then the influence that we are exerting on processes, on people, on the mission and the vision of the organization. People follow you not because of the size of your office, the size of your desk. No. People will follow based on the level and the amount of the development of your character. I don't basically talk so much. Of course I do if I have to. I understand the place of the styles of leadership, but we have been blinded by these concepts, however powerful and usable and applicable they are. I'm talking about the styles of leadership. But I have a challenge with that because we seem to be so driven by determining or understanding or enforcing the styles of leadership while we have totally ignored the purpose of leadership. Styles of leadership is not important than the purpose of leadership. If your purpose is misplaced, your style will truncate, it will defeat, and it will ultimately destroy the efforts and the actions of your leadership. So we don't want to, enthrone the concept of the styles of leadership, even though we know that it is valid, it's very real, that we're not designed the same way in terms of our personality and how our personality styles drive the way we deliver leadership. Those things are practical, they are real. But we want to altogether not ignore the purpose of leadership. Why? Which is the ultimate question. Why do I exist? Why am I here? Very important. Purpose before style. Basically what I'm talking about. Okay, so we would give the due respect to the styles of leadership, but my friend and my dear listener, we want to redirect our understanding, we want to redirect our behavior, we want to redirect our vision to a place of understanding that looks critically into the deployment of our strength, and which is very similarly related to identification of purpose before we begin to examine the styles of leadership, because we become so consumed with asking, which style am I? Which style am I? Which style am I? Okay. I wish we could ask ourselves similarly in that same state of mind, with the same level of curiosity. What is my purpose? Why am I here? Why do I exist? What am I called to do? What am I called to change? All right. So like I said, we want to inspire personal leadership as a critical development priority. The importance of personal leadership as a critical development priority. Okay, it gets better only when you get better. That is my point. It gets better only when you get better. When you get better, then it gets better. And so we want to ask ourselves, what is the matter with leadership? I believe you're asking yourself the same question. I believe that the fundamental challenge that we have today in our world globally is not that we do not have leaders, but we do not understand leaders that understand leadership, or we do not have leaders that understand leadership. And that is very powerful, that we don't need leaders than we need leadership. Now check that out. Think about that for a while. We don't need leaders than we need leadership. We need leaders to deliver leadership. So it seems to me that what we do these days in our agitation for change, in our election processes, electoral processes, and how we choose, decide leaders, we're just basically interested in leaders. We're not interested in leadership. That's powerful. And so we need to redirect our understanding to a place of knowing that we do not need leaders more than we need leadership. We need leadership. That's why we need leaders. We need leadership. That's why we need leaders. All right? And so that brings me to this point that the limitation of leadership is not the definition anymore, but the comprehension. The limitation of leadership is no longer the definition, because the definitions are just too much. They are too much, but what we lack is the comprehension of leadership. We know so much about what leadership is, but disappointingly, too little about what leadership is not. We know what leadership is, but we do not know what leadership is not. Perhaps the way to know what leadership is to understand and begin to examine exactly what leadership is not. Okay? So that's my food for thought for you today. As a leader, where you are, you begin to ask yourself, do I just know what it is to be a leader, but not understanding what leadership is actually? Do I basically execute leadership only from the standpoint of duty, what needs to be done? Does it go further than that? What is the level of influence? Are you basically just task-based? Do people only look up to you or, gravitate towards you only when work is necessary? And when work is done, you are no longer relevant to them? What's your influence like? So leadership is very important. And like I said in my previous introduction, that every generation is impacted by the action of leadership. Every generation is impacted by the action of leadership. And so please, wherever you are, take this time to examine, to ask yourself critically about the nature of your leadership based on these points I have delivered to you. Thank you so much for being part of the Force of Leadership Thought 2024. I'll see you very soon again in my next video. Again, don't forget, the limitation of leadership is no longer the definition, but now the comprehension. Okay, what is the challenge that you have? Is it the definition or the comprehension? I'll see you again very soon. My name is Gideon, and I'm your host of the Force of Leadership Thought. I'll see you very soon, and bye-bye.